Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Zine Inspiration. Today we are talking with Maddy, who does the Scuro Zine. You've seen her on Instagram as Kaiju Maddy. Her Instagram handle's down below. Go follow her. But before we get chatting it up with her, Craig, what have you been doing?
I just recently put out a zine of a new little series I started. It's called 5 o'clock in Tokyo. This is issue number one. And it's a little bit different. It's actually got a bit of a short story and just it says short story and more. So there's a zine review in there and a little bit about actually the title, I'll tell you, is Where I Buy My Books. So it's about just a little bit of some local bookstores here that I frequent. And you, Ryan?
Well, the newest Pocket Thoughts just came out about a week or two ago. Really excited about all the crazy art that's inside of this one. And as always, you can get my most popular 111 team at pocketthoughts.etsy.com. But you didn't come here to look at these two old farts talk about our zines. Let's talk about Scuro.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So, I guess the first question we always ask everybody is, why'd you get into zines?
Okay, so I've always wanted to make zines, and then as you guys know, the past year and a half, we've been stuck at home a lot. I've been watching a lot of movies a lot, and I've been really practicing, writing reviews. I signed up for letterboxd.com, which is kind of like social media for movie fans. You can log every movie you watch, write reviews. Some people take it really seriously on the reviews that they write, and I kind of got wrapped up in that. And my friend was like, you were writing these awesome essays, making all these fans in the horror community. Why not make a zine? You love doing little cartoons too. So I thought, well, what else am I doing besides sitting on my couch waiting until it's safe to go out again, And so I just stuck to it.
It's two mediums and genres that really blend well together. I mean, there's a lot of horror movie zines and horror zines out there as it is, especially dealing with stuff like vampires and serial killers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's no surprise to see another one. But I love the take of yours. Like it's not scary, even though it's about scary subject. It's really easy to jump into and not be afraid of.
Yeah, well, thank you. I really growing up, I always liked scary things, but I was too chicken to watch scary movies. And it's really been kind of probably within the last 5-10 years that I've really started actually watching scary movies. But I worked at Hot Topic for like a decade. My first job in marketing was at HalloweenCostumes.com. So like spooky stuff has just like been in my blood forever. But I was too scared to watch scary movies. But then when I started watching them, I was like, this is a lot more easy to get into than I expected. And I feel like some people maybe need kind of like a big sister vibe to kind of help guide them in and make it more accessible and not so, like, well, you need to watch Leatherface because he tears people apart. And like, oh, that's kind of intimidating. So I thought if I put little hearts and X's and O's on that, it might be a little bit more fun for a wider variety of fans to get into it.
It's a good almost middle point, right? Because when I think of like horror movies, I think like there's almost two spectrums, right? There's the really serious, like scary, gory, violent, and then there's the cheesy, bad. Yep. You're almost laughing along with the movie, right? So it's nice to have that right in the middle feeling.
Yeah, and I kind of say it to my friends, like the example I use is like I love food. I love gourmet food. I love cooking fancy food, but I also like really crappy, like delivery pizza. You just have to be in this right mood for it. And so that's what I kind of think about horror movies. Like there are those really serious ones like The Witch or all the A24 stuff that's come out that's so kind of artsy, but sometimes you just want to watch Freddy Krueger rip up a bunch of teenagers, and that's okay too. And I think that's kind of the vibe I want to bring to the zine of like, you don't have to pick one lane. You don't have to take it too seriously, but if you do want to, that's fine too.
And you've got other contributors helping out with this too. There's some other reviews from other folks.
Yeah, one that I had in the folk horror issue, I was so excited. So on Letterboxd, I've made a lot of friends that review these kind of movies, and so I've been reaching out to them to write. And this girl who is so nice, her name is Nikki. Where is it? she's obsessed with the Wicker Man. So in the folk horror issue, she wrote a whole essay that's, I don't know if you can see it, a whole like love letter to the Wicker Man. And so it's really nice to, you know, have people to bring their voices in. Just like I said, since I'm relatively new, I don't want to be the only person putting out the horror thoughts out there. So I'm letting experts of their own favorite movies kind of pop in too.
Yeah, well, I actually, maybe I've said this in past interviews, but I don't watch any horror movies, and I get really scared. And like, what would you suggest now? How many issues have you got? Maybe 3 issues, or was it?
I just
3?
came out with the fourth one last
Whoa,
Friday.
nice.
So the fourth one, and then
Okay, so
Pocket Thoughts really inspired me. I put out my first little mini issue when I got a package from you in the mail that had all the different sizes. So I have a little one-sheeter. So I'd say 4.5 issues currently live.
okay, so we're gonna have to do a zine swap, I think, and because I need some insight into where to start. Like I wouldn't I it's kind of like you said, well, even with foods, you know, there's so many foods out there. Like if you want to get into something, where do you start? And that's kind of my problem. I don't know what movies to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard to know. And, you know, especially if you're scared, you don't want to jump into the deep end too quick. I think something that's kind of helping me stay organized, but probably helpful for someone like you, is that each of my issues has a certain theme to it. So one of them is slasher movies. So if you're like, okay, maybe I kind of want to give, you know, cheesy slasher classic like 80s horror films a go, I write all about slashers in that one. And the newest one, it's all about folk horror. So maybe you're more interested in like folklore or something more like that.
Okay.
That issue's all about that.
That sounds scary. That sounds
Oh,
really
it's my
scary.
favorite though. Some of them are fine. Like, I don't think like
No, but
Wicker
that's
Man's
like,
not that.
that would like play on your mental in the background when you're like walking home and it's you know
Oh,
the street lights are out.
yeah. I used to live in the country before I moved up to Minneapolis, and there's some movies I probably couldn't watch when I was still living down at the farm.
God,
There's a
yeah, I
wide
would freak out.
variety of horror films that you talk about too, because I mean, even in issue one here, at one point you're going from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre to The Fly to The Silence of the Lambs, like really, like you know,
Yeah.
different styles of horror. And you know, is it blood splatter, or is it terror, or is it chilling? Like I think it's so cool.
Well, thank you. And you know, I think I say it in my second issue about slashers. Like, I hate definitions that are like, I hate fighting about technicalities. Like, is this horror? Is it a thriller? Is like, who cares? Like, are you scared? Then it's horror. Like, is it creepy?
Mm.
Then it's horror. Like, what does it matter? And so I think that's kind of another different aspect. I don't want to keep what horror is. That's so pointless to me. So of course I would put, you know, Rosemary's Baby in there. Of course I would put in my little one, I talk about like Hocus Pocus. Like, is that a horror movie? No, but to a little kid, maybe, you know? And so, yeah, I think limiting yourself to one speciality, you're going to miss out on a lot.
My daughter says she's 10. My daughter says she wants to watch the new It movies, right? Which, like, I'm not watching those with her. And yet she couldn't get all the way through Little Monsters with Howie Mandel without being scared. So I don't know.
Yeah.
To each their own.
I finally watched It for the first time. My scariest thing, clowns. I've hated clowns my whole entire life. Hated it, and I finally watched it, the newest one, and it was okay. But if I would have watched it like 2 decades ago, it would have been bad news. Too scary.
But even
Yeah, I watched the original when I was maybe about like 11 or 12 years old. I had an elder sister, and like I remember watching it with her and her and maybe her boyfriend at the time. And yeah, that freaked me out a bit, but it didn't like overwhelm me, but I remember it being pretty damn scary. But I think the scariest one I remember seeing in my teens is People Under the Stairs. Do you know that one?
I've heard of it, but I have not watched that one. What's so
That is
scary about it?
Well, it's about the concept is like there's this family or like these I remember these adults living in this house, like maybe like elder parents, and they basically they keep children inside the walls. So there's children living inside the walls and under the stairs, and like maybe grandchildren come to visit or something like that. They can hear the kids, and the kids are trying to get out, and
Ooh.
it's really fucking scary.
Yeah, that sounds really creepy. I'll have to find it. Ooh.
There's something about style though too, right? Because when you think about everybody gets scared by different things and whatnot. You look, even when it comes to remakes, you know, a couple of years ago there was a remake of The Evil Dead, right?
Yeah.
Which was intended to be scary and gory and gruesome. But compared to the original Sam Raimi Evil Dead movies, like, you know, we're laughing at those because it's so fun. So it's like,
Right.
which is really the horror. I think of, there's a quote in the movie Ed Wood with Johnny Depp, a Tim Burton movie. I don't know if you've seen it,
Oh,
but
I love it.
it's such a good movie, right? Where Martin Landau, who's playing Bela Lugosi, is talking about like the terror within of playing Dracula, and the audience being not so scared of the blood and the guts, but the anticipation of the fear.
Yeah, that's totally right. And I think, that's why in the new issue, the folk horror, a lot of that, like you said, that one is extra creepy because you're just kind of waiting. Like, are you in the woods? Who else is in the woods with you? Are they nefarious? Are they who they say? And it's just sometimes when you finally see the scary part, like it kind of ruins it. And so that's what I like about folk horror. Because a lot of times that's kind of about, what do you say, like the horror of, human nature. Like the scary part isn't a monster. It's not supernatural. It's, and like Midsummer, it's that group in Sweden. And the witch, yeah, there is a witch, spoiler, sorry, but you find out right away. But the scary part is, this Puritan environment that they're in, and like kind of the oppression that human nature put on society. So I think that's why that kind of subgenre really interests me. And that is kind of interesting what you said about Evil Dead and the style and the substance of that. A lot of what I really like about the older horror movies is watching the craftsmanship of it. So the special effects, the practical effects, you watch it and you laugh and laugh along with it, but it's also like so exciting to watch the creativity and just to think of how much work they put into it, and how creative they had to be with, what did Sam Raimi, they had like a build set up with like cameras on like wooden planks that they, moved around as like a moving camera. And so that's why I really like watching, those 80s movies for that kind of stuff too.
There's something to be said about those real effects, right? Like, I mean, they're there and people are really reacting to it as opposed to just green screen. I always say with like when they used to use puppets and stuff in the old like troll movies and Critters and Star Wars, Yoda was a puppet. Like the actors are really reacting to what that puppet is doing as opposed to pretending something's there and it'll be put in to fill
like a
it.
tennis ball on a stick or something. And I don't know if you've heard the story. It's kind of a famous one from Alien, the original Alien, Ridley Scott, where the chest burster scene, the most like one of the most famous scenes in horror history. The actors knew something was going to happen, but they didn't know that was going to happen when the alien bursts out. So all of their reactions are like 100% real, seeing, something burst out of this poor guy's chest and blood spurting. So like I said, you can't, of course, effects are wonderful and there's talent and that's art as well. And actors are professional, but that's real. That's like visceral. That's flesh. That's real stuff. That's handmade. And I don't know, that's something that's pretty exciting to me that you really don't get in a lot of other genres either, which makes horror pretty special in that regard as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure we'll get back around to horror because of Brian's love for it. But you talked about this zine started in August.
Yes.
What was your what was your introduction to zines, or when was your introduction to zines?
Yeah, so growing up as a little kid in the 90s in southern Minnesota, I really didn't have access to like a cool punk rock scene, but my dad worked for a computer company, so we had internet a little bit earlier than I think the regular, type of person did in their home. So definitely would find like Bikini Kill posters online. I was obsessed with Hole and the Riot Girl, scene going on in the 90s. And so a lot of that kind of the DIY nature of it really stuck with me. I went to school for journalism, and growing up, I always liked to make like fake magazines. I would even make up like fake yearbooks where I would draw pictures of kids that I would make up and make, like when you're bored as a little kid with your notebooks, but I would just love to like make stuff like that. So I think falling in love with that little, seeing the Riot Girl stuff, and then I have a friend, the one who kind of helps me put my PDFs together. His wife does a zine out in Boston about thrifting, like in thrift stores and all that kind of stuff. And he was one of the ones. Yeah, Thrifty Times. It's so cool. But he's like,
Sounds cool.
Just make a zine. And I'm like, oh, I don't know how. And like, I'm not great with like computer like software as far as like designing. And so I said, you know what, I'm just going to do it how I know how to do it. I just print stuff out. I have glue sticks, I have scissors, and I just paste it on and I scan it in, and he makes the PDFs. And so I think that was kind of the little kick I needed. Before the pandemic, there is a store in Minneapolis called The Future, which is kind of like a metaphysical shop. Sells witchy stuff, but they're also really into, protesting and mutual aid and all that kind of stuff, and community impact. And they hosted an event about zine making a couple years ago, so I attended that as well and saw all like cool like historical zines, as well as zines that she sells in her shops, as far as like the magical property of spices, and how to get ready if you're going to a riot so you won't get arrested, that kind of stuff. So it was really cool to see the wide variety that you can make. It doesn't just have to be one type of thing. So I'm like, why not? I can make a movie one. Why not? That was just kind of my thought going into it. Literally, why not?
You can make a zine,
Cool.
like absolutely. And I've seen zines about everything. And I keep joking to Craig that I'm going to make a zine all about toast, just because who else has done it, right? And then each page is going to be done on a piece of toast, and that like it's dumb, but who else would do it? So yeah, just keep doing it. Do you have any plans to make non-horror zines now that you've started making zines?
I've been thinking about that a lot. I really kind of, I don't want to say overcommitted, but doing one zine a month is a little bit more work than I was expecting, as far as, coordinating everything, writing everything. So I think I want to really get a handle on my process on this, but I've always kind of wanted to do one about maybe other types of movies. I craft a lot, so I thought it would be cool to do kind of like interviews of different crafters and stuff that they're doing. But in the past, I kind of thought of just doing a basic, like almost a magazine, what to like watch this month, what song to watch this month, kind of like basic stuff, but nothing's really stuck until I found Scuro, like the horror movie thing that's kept me passionate. It's kept me coming back to my desk and working late in the night with my scissors and paper scattered everywhere. It's a mess, but it's so fun.
Tell us more about that process, because that's something that we wish that zine creators would talk about more, is kind of walk us through like how you create and make and put it together.
Yeah, so I don't know how much you guys know about this, but I'm a Libra sun and a Virgo rising, which means I love making lists and I love being organized and I get very excited. So when I came up with Scuro, I created my entire year as far as themes. So I know exactly what month is going to be ahead of time, just because I was so excited. And so I start from there, which is kind of nice. And then I just start, pulling together if I've already written a review on certain movies that fit into the theme. If I haven't, I'm very lucky now. I've had a couple people reach out to ask to be in it, which is really exciting to me. Like even strangers have been reaching out to say that they want to contribute. So kind of round all that up, and then I just start typing. And then the first thing I do, I have this taped up next to me. I make my table of contents and I have it right up next to me, so I know every single thing that I want to make. And yeah, after that, it is literally so DIY. I remember on the live interview I did with the Twin Cities Zine Fest, they're like, "Oh, do you do it in InDesign? Do you do it Photoshop?" I'm like, "No, I write it in Word, I print it out, and then I literally just cut it with the scissors and I glue stick it down, and then I have washi tape," which is another thing where like that's so like cutesy little girl, not horror magazine, doing little like hearts and polka dot tape and just glue stick and tape it down. And then actually I can show you, I have my originals right here. So when they're all done, I just have loose leaves of paper of everything. Like it would be like a normal zine. I scan it in and I send it to my friend and he puts it in printing order and I send it to Office Max.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a very, very similar system to mine, but I'm not as organized as you. Everything I do is cut and pasted and like hand drawn and things like that. The most technical thing I did actually for the zine I talked about earlier was I got someone else designed the back cover, a guy over in Portugal,
cool.
and I told him like the size of the zine and like and he's like, okay, yeah, can you send me the PDF? And I printed his PDF and I stuck it onto the master copy and I was so proud of myself. That's almost
That's what I do.
And then even this one is handwritten too. I don't
Oh,
always
that's
handwrite,
awesome.
but I do the same as you. I just type it up in Word and then I think Word you can kind of shrink the margins in. You can change the margins and then and that's what I did for a couple of years back. I made a mini zine, like you said, and I pushed in the margins and I just printed it down like 12 pages. So it was just in the center of 12 pages.
Yeah, I have
I
mine
love
set
this
up.
process.
I have 2 documents. So I have my 2-column one, which is kind of the bigger size, and then I have a 4-column one, so it can print out in little chunks. But yeah, I was the same with, my artists. They're like, well, what file format and what color DPI and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, I don't know. I'm literally just going to print it and tape it in there. Where is this one? This one I thought was so cool. That one is
That
from
is cool.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers. But yeah, he was like, well, what size and what corner is the thing? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm not worried about that. Like, I want it to look made. I want it to look like I made it. You know what I mean? You're not buying zines to be a professionally printed novel that you can buy at the bookstore. You want to see like the edges of the paper that you glued down. You want to see like I cross out words if like they're spelled wrong. You know what I mean? You like I think that's so cool because then it feels like someone made it. That's art that you're sharing.
Yeah, that's what that's what I said to him. I said, sorry, Ryan. That's what I said to him. I said, please be aware that it's going to be printed in black and white on a very dodgy photo printer. Like, don't worry too much. He's like, okay, that's cool, that's cool. So I just have to add that in there for him.
But it's like,
Go
you
ahead,
two
Ryan.
have it figured out. Because, like, for me, like, I'll just be usually in the shower and I'll be drifting off. And I'll go, Halloweenies. That sounds fun. And then my whole life is a blur for 2 weeks, and then I have a zine in my hand.
That's awesome though. I mean, that is kind of the flow state I call it, where you're sitting down, you have it all around you, and you do go in that zone, and you're like, I got to do it. I have these ideas. And then you have it in your hand. You're like, wow, I just thought of doing that, and I have something to show for it, like something physical in my hands. Like that's pretty cool to me, in my opinion.
How cool is it for you now when people, they're getting it from your shop and everything, and they're showing it off on their Instagram and everything. How cool is it for you
Oh
to be like,
it's so cool, and it's pretty exciting just because old people that I've known from past jobs or old friends are coming out of the woodwork to buy it, which I think is pretty cool to see that. But just obviously it's so important that my friends are paying attention, but it's the strangers. Like when you were interested, I'm like, oh my gosh, like some of the like zines is looking at mine. Like it is so flattering. And the more that kind of happens, you're like, oh, there is such a big world of zines out there that I'm not even in the loop about. I was contacted by someone who makes stapled spine, like a horror zine. I was like, and they want to write about me. Like all this oh, there are more people out there. So I think that's where my next steps in my zine process is going to go, is trying to figure out, who makes zines like me, who would be interesting. Like that Godzilla zine, I want to reach out to her and be like, hey, I want to do a monster copy. Like that would be so cool. Do you want to write for me or do art or anything like that? And kind of making those connections, just because I think that's That's another part of it. Obviously, it's cool for people buying it and getting a little bit of income, but I'm not going to get rich off of zines. That's not my point at all. It's nice to cover printing costs and, that kind of stuff, but I want to make friends. I want to find more people that like them, which is
I think
happening.
I think the zine community is just as deep as a well. I think it just goes on forever, and like I think there's different parts of it. There's the online part. There's the now the Zine Fest is kind of coming back. The Zine Fest part, and there's people that sometimes cross over, but there's people that don't cross over at all. And then there's all the little subgenres and that. So in your area, what is the zine community like there? Is there any community, or is there? You said about a shop earlier.
Yeah, so the shop that I go to, The Future, she'll have some. I don't know if they're local or not. I think a lot of them are friends that she has around the country that send them in. I did make a connection with someone, which was very exciting. I went to a horror convention like a month or so ago up in northern Minneapolis, and I brought a couple of my zines with just in case anyone seemed like they'd be interested in seeing it. And there's a guy that I met named Sam who runs a publication company in Minneapolis. It's called Weird Punk Books, and he does it himself, and it's all horror novels, and it's fiction. It's, he's got one all about David Cronenberg, which he's one of my absolute favorites. So I was like, okay, this guy is like super, like he looks like my age. He looks like he was a punk kid. He's got, tattoos. He has all this stuff. I'm like, I'm going to give him my zines. And he was like, can I swear on this or no?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
He was like, holy shit, I used to love zines when I was a teenager. Like, this is so crazy. Thank you. And now, he's submitted. He's talking about maybe making zines as part of his publication company. And so I think there is a zine community if I can kind of pull it out. If that makes like find people that either used to be into zines and want to get back into it, or people that have never heard of it before. Because I'm sure you guys know, like, people are like, what's a zine? And you have to kind of explain it. But then when you hear it, they're like, oh, like, sick. I'm so into that. And so I'm not shy. I'm not afraid of, going out and kind of collecting friends and contributors. So I think the more the world's opening up, and I want to go. I'm going to do a booth next year at that horror convention for my zines and see who I can meet there, and want to go to like coffee shops and drop them off, all that kind of stuff. So hopefully there's a community. If not, I'm pretty stubborn, and I think I'll start a community if I can have my way.
Yeah, there often is, but I know your feeling. I'm kind of the same mindset. Often if I can't find a community initially, it's just like, well, fuck it, I'll just create one, or I'll just kind of start one, and I kind of did that. I've been involved in some small ones here in Tokyo. I've been kind of looking. I know there's some little things about the zine communities here, but it's with timing, and then also these last sort of 2 years kind of getting in the way. It's really kind of slowed my process of trying to find a community at all. But then, online, I kind of, just created my own a little bit with my own little review thing. And it was like, well, and then I found other little pockets there. And, you find one person, and then all of a sudden 3 other people kind of follow, and you follow back. You're like, they're kind of in it.
Yeah,
So,
it's pretty cool.
I think it's important. Communities are very important. Like
And I think
especially
that's
zine
the
community,
thing that I've noticed about people that make zines is we're all, I think, pretty dorky and pretty excited about what we're doing. It is something where you have to be passionate to do it, because no one assigned us to make a zine. No one said, okay, Brian, your paycheck depends on this. It's more like, I want to do it because I freaking want to do it. You know what I mean? And so I think we're kind of dorky that way. We want to build that. We want to find more people. Sorry if that was bad to call us dorky, but I think you guys get it.
I love it.
Yeah, I totally get it. But at the same time, I mean, I don't know about you, but like my real life friends don't understand it. I've said that before. Like, they'll be like, oh, what are you up to today? I'm like, oh, just doing some art for a zine. And they're like, oh yeah, those little books that you make. Yeah. And it's like, yeah.
I
Little
think most of my friends do, but it is funny now that it's November. Quite a few people, like coworkers, are not as close friends. Like, well, what are you gonna do now that Halloween's done? Are you still gonna do it? I'm like, yeah, like there's horror year round. Like that's not just Halloween, and I get it, but they're like, are you just done now? Like even my mom asked me that, which is so sweet because my mom doesn't like scary movies at all, but she's bought every single issue, which I think is so cute. But she even asked, she's like, what are you gonna do now? I'm like, keep doing it. My next issue that I'm working on is all about like snowy winter horror. So I'll write about The Shining and Krampus and Black Christmas. There's plenty. There's plenty of horror to go year round and then some.
Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Oh, yes. It's going to be a good issue.
Jack Frost.
So
And
we were never assigned to make zines. So why the hell do people get into it? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Then?
I don't know. I think it goes back to what I said, where you have, the passion and you have that vision, and then you have something to hold. I think that's what's so exciting to me. And, I love to crochet and I love to embroider. And part of that is the process, but part of it is like having the fruit of your labor physically in your hands. And I think that's what's so cool about zines too, is that you get to play a lot of parts. You get to be creator, you get to be designer, you get to be a planner, you get to be a marketer, you get to be a salesperson. Like you get to be everything when it comes to it. And I think that's a pretty fun part of, having a zine as a big part of your side life.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like I kind of, I had a break from zines, and then about 2016, 17, I kind of got back into them. And before that, I was writing a blog, and I was kind of writing, online sort of stuff. And then I thought, well, I'm going to take this blog back into zines. I'm going to take it offline and just make a zine. And then not only did I have to work on the story, I had to think about, okay, a cover, and then how am I going to make this? And then a back cover. And it was like, well, okay, I have to copy it. And then I have to I made like a little, actually I've got something here. I made a mini zine, but I made it on like a B4 page, or big page, like A3 size kind of thing. And it's a 16-page zine. So you cut it, you got to glue it, and it folds down to something little. So there was kind of so many steps. But I really enjoyed that process. And it was like, yeah, you have all of these little jobs you have to do. Like even the front cover, I had to print it at a Photoshop to like pocket size kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was, yeah, I think that's like you say, yeah, like that.
Yeah, it is fun. It's fun to have lots of little things that you truly care about. And I think another thing I really like is I'm the boss of my zine. So even a lot of people are like, well, can I write about so-and-so movie? Does that even count? Like, fuck yeah, it counts. Like, I'm the boss. Like, I get to decide. Like, we don't have to worry about it. Like, yeah, of course. Do I want to put a heart around Leatherface's face? Yeah, I don't have to get approval from anybody. Like, you get to be in control, which is so exciting. And I think that was really interesting what you said about blogs, just because I, used to have a blog for a while. That's something I've always wanted to do, but it felt so, I don't want to say thankless, but I would publish a blog and then it would just be out in the world and nothing would really happen. And I was like, okay, what's next? And it didn't feel as, fulfilling. And part of my day job is I'm in marketing. So I write blogs all the time. It's not that exciting to me. So the last thing I want to do after work is write another blog. And so I think having the more tactile, hands-on is a nice change of pace.
And you read a lot of physical books too, I think. I was looking at your Instagram, and so you're kind of like you enjoy the kind of the physical.
Yeah, my husband and I are definitely collectors. I love books. We love magazines. My husband, his game room is right behind me, and it's just full of old like Japanese game magazines, old, books, art books, all that kind of stuff. So we are a house of physical media. We love having things like that. So I think, contributing to the physical media world is kind of exciting for me too.
Yeah.
Especially in a world, where magazines aren't doing as hot as they did, when I was a kid. I went to school for journalism with the hopes that I would work for a magazine. And obviously there's online websites, but there's nothing like getting home and having like a new issue of, Fangoria or whatever in your hands and flipping through it.
Yeah.
Tiger Beat for Craig.
What's that? Tiger Beat.
Tiger Beat. You read Tiger
I've
Beat.
never-
Come on, everybody read Tiger Beat.
I had a
I've never heard
subscription.
of
Yeah, you get the posters of like Kirk Cameron and put them on your wall. And
Oh, is that like a teen magazine or something? Is it?
yeah, you get
No,
your like TV.
I was buying like Thrasher magazine and I was reading skateboard magazines. I had no time for pop mags.
It was
No,
Metal Edge,
Leo.
Hit Parader, Metal Edge, and Wizard magazine, which was all about comic books in the 90s.
Comic books. I thought it was like music, like pop music. No.
No, I was like a rock and roll metal kid. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Tiger Beat was
I
pop
was
music.
just
That was like Backstreet Boys and all that kind of stuff. I
Yeah.
had plenty of Tiger Beats.
I love Hanson though. Like, and I will fight to the death with anyone who says that Hanson sucks. Like, bring it on. They're an incredible group.
They work hard. They're still going. That's longevity. That's impressive.
Well, in an Mbop, you're gone, and in Mbop, you're not there. So you got to work hard. You know?
Who could say it better than that? Is there any way to express that feeling than Mbop, you're gone? Tell me. I can't read it.
Usually I ask a question about like the we're so off topic now. Usually I ask a question about the future of zines and what the zinesters think the future of zines is. But you've got yours kind of like mapped out for the next year. So there's no real point in asking unless you could maybe say what it is you would like to see from zines in the next year.
I think it's more about my own personal growth is what I want to see in zines in the next year. Is kind of finding more. I really love like the package I got from you in the mail because it really opened my eyes to different formats and different ways to explore zines. I have another couple like horror issues I got in the mail where I was like, holy shit, they fit so much stuff into this zine. It's like straight up collage, and it was awesome to see that. So I think for myself, I'd really like to kind of experiment with different types. Like the newest one, I word search, which I thought was kind of fun. And then in the next one, I have someone that I reached out to. They reached out to me and they want to do like a tarot card spread that relates to horror movies. So I think kind of playing with the different formats and stuff I can fit in there, I think would be pretty interesting. And then, yeah, finding more people that I can hang out with and get inspiration from and talk about zines with. That's fun.
Cool. And the more
when you come over to Japan next time.
I know. I'm so excited because my favorite bar in Japan is in Kabukicho in Shinjuku. It's called Deathmatch in Hell. It's in Golden Guy, and it's all horror themed, like plastered with horror. Every beer or drink is 666 yen. Like it's all super horror themed. But when I go over there, I'm gonna bring him a big chunk of my zines. The bartender is awesome. So if you're ever in Golden Guy, check out Deathmatch in Hell.
Okay, will do.
The bartender, it looks like Japanese Wayne from Wayne's World. So you'll know him when you see him.
Ooh.
He's got the hat on, long hair, black t-shirt. Every single time I've ever seen him the past like decade, same outfit.
Sounds stylish. Sounds perfect.
Classic.
Well, those are all the questions I have. Craig, do you have anything else that you want to ask? I think we covered it.
Well, yeah, kind of. Yeah, I think so. We talked a lot about your zine. I'm just wondering about like some of the inspiration behind like your zine inspiration.
Yep.
Is there any zines that out there that you really enjoy or are keen to kind of get more into?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, that Thrifty Time zine that I brought up, my friends, that one was kind of a good starter one for me just to kind of look at it from a technical aspect, as well as content, like what size font, like, because I started out with a font and then I got smaller so I could fit more words in there. I'm like, is it too small? Like, should I do that? Do people even care? And so I think getting more like that to kind of get, do you have it back behind you?
I know I've got a pink one on here somewhere. I'm sure I can
I don't
find
have one, but I want to get it. That sounds cool. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Thrifty Times. I have one right here with
You found one, Ryan.
mark on the cover.
it. Yeah, I've got
Yeah,
one with
they came to visit a couple months ago to Minneapolis, so that was really cool to meet them. But yeah, I think just getting more inspiration from that. A lot of my inspiration honestly comes from like traditional magazines, honestly, more than zines right now, just because that's what I'm more familiar with. So as you know, market research, I treated myself to a subscription of Fangoria. You know what I mean? So that comes to my mailbox and I get to, look at how they, write about movies and the different personalities and their spins and more of the opinion pieces rather than just straight up like news pieces. So I think just kind of expanding the way I look at writing, I think will be a good part of what I want to work on as far as my approach to zines, and then figure out the more, design creative aspects as I go, as it comes to me.
It's a fun exercise almost to keep challenging yourself to like try different styles and things. That's what I do a lot with Pocket Thoughts. Is like from issue to issue, it's not so much what do I want to say, but how do I want to show it sometimes.
Yeah.
In like, oh, this one is going to be all collage, or this one is going to be mostly comic, or this one is going to be just straight friggin' text and nothing else, and I have to use my words to get it across.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell my tale all through mazes and puzzles and games, and just because I can, and just to see if I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, a lot of being on that letterbox.com site, that's kind of showed me too of, some people's reviews are like, this movie sucks, 2 stars, like, and it's boring. But then there's some people that treat it kind of like a journal prompt, or they treat it like just a jumping off part. I read one where he reviewed this Egyptian, movie from decades and decades ago, and he wrote it like a love letter in the comments. And so he kept commenting back and forth to himself as like the letters replying. I'm like, wow, that's so crazy. Like looking at, the like how to experiment with form. And I think that would be something that I really want to try to, maybe I could do a choose your own adventure zine once, you know what I mean? Like just kind of come up with something cool like that.
Well, even just talking to you today, like I got re-inspired about an idea from a long time ago that I completely forgot about when you were talking about writing reviews for letterboxes, because I don't remember if it was Pocket Thoughts 2 or 3, it doesn't matter the issue, but I clipped in a review that I'd written on Amazon after buying something, where I got this email from Amazon that was like, oh, how did you like that can of chunky soup that you bought? Would you care to leave a review? So when you challenge me like that, you're going to get a 250-word review about soup, right?
Yes,
And
I would love to answer that question.
at one point I was thinking of doing a zine of just reviews of the stupid shit that I buy, and like regular everyday mundane shit, but with these really detailed like, oh, and the packaging really, just bullshit
Yeah.
shit. But it would be so much fun.
That would be fun. And I think as, a consumer of zines, like like I said, I'm like, I'm the boss. I don't care. I'm going to put what I want in there. You still want people to enjoy reading it. And I think something like that, I would be like, hell yeah, that is like a coffee table book. Like I want a zine of Amazon reviews that are taking themselves a little too seriously, or, you know what I mean? I think that one would be fun. Yeah, now I'm thinking of what else I could do. Perfect. Inspiration.
You just take two things that you wouldn't think go together, put them together, and you've got one of the best zines I ever bought. I wish I could think of the creator's name, and I wish I had it handy to show it. But it was just a little mini folded 6-page mini zine, and it was pictures of dinosaurs that they had glued googly's eyes onto. And it's one of my most favorite zines I've ever bought, because the absurdity of it, like somebody thought to do that.
And then they followed through with it. That's the best part.
Yes.
I think that's why, I'm excited to do more of these little ones, just because they can be, I think, a little bit more silly or less like detailed as far as like writing a deep essay about what this horror movie means to me as a fan. Like that's fine and all, but this one is horror movies that made me cry because I'm a crybaby. And then I just list 6 movies that I cried watching. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think it's fun to kind of do those silly things too. Just I would read that. If I saw that in a basket at a craft fair, I'd say, yeah, I will spend $1 on that. Easy.
Yeah.
Do you think you will? Maybe you said about this. Do you think you will table at zine fairs? I think maybe you
I think so. I think, I'm going to commit to doing that horror fest, which I think will be very, very fun. Like zine fans, horror fans are very excited talking about what they love. So I think it'd be very fun to have a table there. And when I scoped it out, there were some tables where a guy was selling 2 books that he wrote. So that was the only thing on his table. So I think I would fit in fine with just, a year's worth of zines. But I hope the Twin Cities Zine Fest will be in person next year. I was invited to be part of it just this last month, but it was all virtual. And so there really wasn't a ton of interactivity, which is kind of a bummer. It was really nice. They put me on their Instagram and their website, and they did a little Instagram live with me, but that was kind of it. So hopefully, if it's in person, I will be there at a table and get to make friends in my community.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm all out of questions, right? You?
Oh, geez, yeah. Yeah, I think we covered a lot. This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about Scuro and sharing what you do. This is so cool.
Is there anything you'd like to mention? Sorry to cut in, right? But is there anything anything else you'd like to cover? No?
Tell everyone
No.
where you get your zines.
Yeah, you can buy my zines at kaijumaddy.etsy.com. So that's KAIJUMADDY. And that's my Instagram name. And my Twitter is Maddysaurus, like a dinosaur. So I post on my Instagram and my Twitter, every time something goes live. I have stickers, which is really fun. People want to buy my stickers that go with the zine. So yeah, I'm just excited. And if anyone likes scary movies and they want to write either an essay or a little 50-word blurb for me, get in touch. I would love to have you.
Very cool.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, again, thank you for being on the show. And those of you who have watched this video all the way to the end, if you haven't liked and subscribed and followed and blah, 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 in the honor of Maddy and the Scuro Zine, comment below what your favorite scary movie is. So she can...
Yes.
Yes. So I can watch it and add it to my watch list if I haven't seen it.
Sleepaway Camp.
Scary.
Bye, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.